welcome to Women versus Everything, a podcast based on women's history and contemporary women who have overcome oppression and adversity to stand in their authenticity and change the world or change the lives of the people around them. And today we have a very special episode. It is the first of hopefully many interviews that Jess and I are going to do with women from other parts of the world, other cultures, who've had experiences we haven't had, and just other women we want to chat to, other women who are doing great work, and we just want to have a hangout and get to know them and talk feminism with them.
Yes, so, basically this whole podcast is just an excuse for us to talk to cool women.
Completely. And today we have a very special guest, Emiko, or Emmy, Rasmussen, who was born in Yokohama, Japan. And she's come to the United States and lived in America. She's currently in California. She's faced lots of language and cultural barriers, but as a result, she's overcome this, and she's a speaker and a coach and host of Her Confidence, Her Way podcast, which is a bilingual podcast. She wants to empower Asian women, especially Japanese women, to overcome their barriers to living purposefully with confidence. So welcome, Emmy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk with you guys today.
We are so excited to have you here as our very first podcast guest. This is great. We've been really looking forward to talking to you.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we recorded an episode about 70s the Japanese feminism about Mitsu Tanaka, and I think that was Jess and I always planned to get guests on. But I think that was really the first time that we were like, oh, I think, it's going to be really beneficial for everyone if we get some guests on and chat about all the different experiences that are out there. Yeah.
Can I quickly say thank you, because I never heard of Libu movement.
Yeah.
Okay, so my generation, so I was born in early 80s. Went through the public education, and I haven't taken any women studies back then. I don't even know if we had that. Maybe college possibly, but not necessarily, from elementary through high school. And I also learned Japanese history. However, I do not remember hearing anything about it. Just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah.
I have learned a lot from you guys, and I'm just so thankful because now I am kind of digging more. And wasn't it kind of difficult for you guys to actually get some information? Because there aren't that many out there, don't you think?
Yeah, it varies actually. Grace can probably speak to the Mitsu Tanaka episode better than me, because she chose the person for that one, although I was obviously researching kind of the background and the culture and things. And yeah, it really varies. Some of the episodes are super easy because there's just tons and tons of sources, and it's almost what do we have to leave out rather than what can we include. But yeah, some of them, the information is really sparse and the information is really spotty, so we have to kind of really dig deep and work with what we can find and then kind of fill in the gaps with the rest with sometimes we don't really know.
Yeah. I have also a feeling that if I searched in English, I would have found more info than searching in Japanese. I actually Googled Libu, and then movement is undo in Japanese. So I literally just typed in Japanese. I went to YouTube. I did not see many at all.
Oh, that's really interesting.
A big thing we do on the podcast is we're learning alongside the viewers. We have a corrections corner. We're not experts. But I think one thing was I think that experience of women's history or women being erased from the mainstream history lessons is very universal. I know over here in Ireland, that was my experience. We do an exam when we're 15 called the Junior Cert, and there was questions about women's history on that, but we were never taught it. So it was an option, but it wasn't, because it's up to your individual history teacher whether they cover that part of the curriculum or not. And my history teacher called it the bluffer's question. So he's like, this is just the question that if you haven't studied, you try and answer, which is really sad.
Yeah, like there's so much opportunity there for teaching this stuff, and it just isn't, which is, yeah, as you say, really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think there would be more information on your own women's history in English than in Japanese, Emmy?
Yeah. You know what? This is actually, I don't, so I watch a lot of like a documentary or what's the one? The American like Vice. It's like based on documentaries. So pretty much it's not like government filtered in. You know what I'm saying? So I have a feeling, and then please, like, this is just a disclaimer. Like, I obviously I cannot represent for everybody, like Japanese woman, and I'm speaking only from my personal experience. So I just wanted to put it there.
Sure,
but I think there are a lot of like media censored control. So like one time, this is like a completely different topic, but just to give you an example, I have learned about World War II when I was in Japan. All the story, the way how it was written was really Japan was the victim, and it was very written in a passive way, right? Or I was learned in a passive way.
Oh, interesting.
It's like we were the victim, like someone did it to us. But then I also studied from the US side as well. I have taken Japanese history when I was in college. But the way how it was written was so different. It was like we did it for Japan, like we helped Japan to become this and that. It's just the way how it's written is a whole different. So like I'm not saying who is right or wrong, but it's just like a different perspective when it's written in that way. And maybe because you're a writer, maybe you kind of like understand like how people write and stuff. I'm definitely not that expert, but it's just that the perspective is different. So things happen in Japan, Japanese people think that that's normal. So it's not like a newsworthy, or it's not a thing to talk about, versus if you're looking at Japan from outside, things that people do there, something's wrong. So people write about it. So I find there are more articles about like especially like a hidden Japanese things that people don't talk about in Japan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. That's really interesting. I really connected with what you were saying about how it's very different in the way it's told in Japan to the way it's told in the States. And I suspect the way that it's told here in the UK is probably different again. It's very much like the story and the basic facts might be the same, but the spin and the angle and the perspective is so different depending on who's telling it. And I think that's really interesting. And honestly, it's one of the things that I find fascinating about doing this podcast is that like we get to explore these stories from maybe a slightly different angle.
Yeah, for sure.
I really identify with what you're saying from a different angle as well, in that like Ireland is a country that was colonized very heavily, and that's massive in our history. It's something we really learn about, and it's a big part of our culture as well. Like, we're quite a rebellious culture, but yet if you go to England that did colonize us, it's barely mentioned in their history.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you think are, like, in Japan not newsworthy that as an outsider looking in might be?
Yeah. Like, for example, have you ever heard of Shiori Ito? She was a journalist. Okay. Well, she fights for gender equality and all that. You might want to look her up. But anyway, so pretty much so many media really took her like articles down, the Japanese version of it. Even just when I Google, right, her name in Japanese, it's all about just her news. Just like everything's just the news the media took. But if you look her up in English, it's just a whole different game. It's like there is an article, but it's not like a Yahoo Japan news, or does that make sense? And then again, I love my country and everything. I respect my country. I don't think that Japan take these news as a social problems, or it's just like a thing happen. Versus the outside of Japan, they really point out like, okay, so things like this happen, and Japan has this history of all those things. Like, it's more educational versus Japan. Like it's just like a thing, like a thing that happened type of, like it's just like informational of what just happened. So they don't really.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, they don't really go dive deep into what is the story behind it, like what kind of social problem that is happening and why this is happening. It doesn't talk about it. So like everything is all about just like a news station topics, right? Yahoo Japan to like a Nikkei.com, all those things. It's just so many things. Like, I mean, this is not totally about the woman, but about the dolphin. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but killing dolphin is a really sad thing. But Japan is still a hash thing. They don't talk about it. So the American journalists, they went to Japan and they like secretly filmed and they like interviewed people and all those things. It's just like, I feel like there are so many like a history hiding still happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Things that are just not getting talked about and are kind of getting brushed under the carpet in that way, I suppose.
Yeah. And then there's like recently another one that really upsets me a lot. One of the, I think it was a university or the high school, I forget, but Japan, we do testing, right? So you have to test it out to go to school. I guess the threshold for men is lower than women. So women have to have a higher score to get into that college or the high school versus men, they don't have to have that high score to get into that. It's like those things, it has been happening the whole entire time, but now it is people are more finding out, and because of the social media and, you know, people speak more about it. So it's getting more aware. But in the mainstream media, they don't really talk about it.
Wow, that's really shocking. That story you just told about the scores.
Yeah, it's very, very upsetting. It's the Tokyo high school admissions tests require higher pass marker or marks from girls than boys.
And do they say why, or are they just trying to deny and not talk about that happening, or?
Well, I haven't digged Jess much yet, but there was an investigation that happened, and let's see, I'm literally just reading from the article that's from someone that I know that I can trust, always post like a social issues.
Wow.
And yeah, like there was an investigation conducted from one of the news company that it's just the female applicants has to get higher score than men. It's just these things happen, like it's been happening, I'm assuming, and there are other ones too where it's like one of the medical universities that women had to get more points than men to get in. It's just it makes sense why women struggle a lot in Japan. Basically, that's what I want to say.
Wow, that is so shocking.
And it's like, you know, you think that Japan is very, you know, developed in all the technologies. That's what people think. But the social issues, I think there are more people who are speaking up, which is very thankful. But at the same time, there are a lot of people, they just take it like, well, this is what it is. Or if someone says something, like someone from the government, he said, a woman takes too long to make a decision or something like that, people kind of like dismiss with, well, he's too old, or he's from that generation, or yeah,
we definitely hear those excuses across the pond as well. So you just mentioned there like some messages that you noticed, like, you know, that things are hush hush and you don't talk about certain things. What were other messages, or that women take longer to make decisions? What were some of the other messages you might have received through your culture or your family about how a woman is supposed to behave, you know?
Definitely, it's like women should, you know, I think this is pretty much across everywhere, but I definitely grew up, I'm really speaking from my own experience, but my parents never told me. But it's just like a fashion magazines and like TV shows and all that stuff. Like women are pretty much kind of like being, it should be submissive. right? Women should be submissive. Like, you should never really speak up or don't rock the boat because you're a woman, because you're a girl. You have to like cute and smile. All those things. It's pretty much still the same. But for me, because like in Japan, it's very strict with like a school codes or rules. So like, you have to wear the certain uniforms, and you have to have a certain length for the skirt, and then you have to wear certain socks and all that stuff. So it's really blend in. So don't stand out. So if you are standing out, like someone will just tell you, hey, you look different. Like for example, I still remember when I was in junior high, middle school. So we have to test out for high school. And then this one boy, he has, I don't know what it is, but he has a lighter hair. And I think it might be difficult for you guys to really picture it, but Japanese people, we have black hair, right? Darker hair. But for him, he had like a really lighter hair. And that was really natural for him. He never dyed his hair or anything like that. But when you're applying for school, and again, I'm talking about my generation, you should not be, so like for example, you have blue hair, right? Or the purple hair. Like, Jess, this is like a big no-no. Like, you're not supposed to be changing your hair color to go to an interview or go to the testing because you're going to stand out. Like, you should never change your appearance. It has to be like this, black hair. So the teacher had to write a letter to the school saying like, oh, this boy, this is his natural hair color, and he never dyed his hair or anything like that. It's just like, to me, I felt it was weird that he had to do that. That's how weird. Doesn't it sound funny to you? Like, now I think about it, this is like really weird to me.
Yeah, that's just really interesting to me. That sort of don't change aspects of your appearance and things, and that it would be so unusual that they'd have to specify that this is his natural color.
Yeah, but of course nowadays, there are more like an international marriage. So Japanese people get married with other people from different countries. So of course the appearance is looking different now, but back then, that's how we, grew up. So I could see that can also affect as a parent. So now my generation are around the age of like, having kids. I'm not saying you all have to have kids or anything like that, but in general, the age-wise, people might have kids, right? As a parent, I could also see as, well, you can't change, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you can't do that based on like our experience too. So it's like a carrying to the next generation.
Yeah, I when I was researching for this interview, or kind of stalking Emmy, stalking you, I found this really good interview on a website called AsianWomenOfPower.com, and there was an amazing quote you said in that, which was, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So basically, you don't want to speak up. You don't want to stand out. So if you do something, for example, here in the States, it's like there's a saying like, if the wheel is the squeaky one, or like whatever you make noise, you get attention. But in Japan, it's the opposite. It's like if you are standing out, like the nail, right, is sticking out, you get hammered down, meaning like you don't want to show how great you are, or you don't want to say too much about how great you are. It's just all about being humble. And yeah, humble is a really good one to say it. Like, just, you have to be very humble. So this actually, I struggle a lot from this. Like, this is a really beautiful virtue, to be reserved and be humble and, be thankful and grateful and all that stuff. But at the same time, when I need to speak up and stand out and explain my ability, the skills, I totally failed. I was like, well, I'm not that great. No. Like, thank you so much for this opportunity. I can't believe that I get these opportunities, blah, 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 right? In my mind, I was thinking, I know I can do it. But you don't want to come across that way in Japan. And again, I'm talking like a kind of traditional way. So we struggle a lot. So this whole entire time we were raised in this like a group setting, it's like we focus like really about like a group, right? Blend in and all that stuff. And then once you graduate from college and you try to apply for a job, and that's when you have to talk about, so what is unique about you, or like what makes you you, and all those questions are throwing at you, and or what are you good at? Because you're not really supposed to talk about what you're good at. You have to be humble and say, oh no, I'm not that good. You know, that's like a way of saying, I don't know, like, you're not supposed to say, yeah, I know I'm good. Like, no, I'm that good. Like, although you know you're good. So now going into like the real world and trying to get a job, people struggle because like they have no idea who they are. Like they don't know what they're really good at. They don't even know what they want. So it's a big issue. And also with girls, all those medias, and Grace, I shared with you a photo about the girls' power, or was it a girl power? But like all the social media, you know, talking about how you should look like. Moteru means like being liked, right? Being liked by men, these are the makeups that you should be doing. If you want to be liked by men, it's always been liked by men. You should wear these type of clothes. Like now I'm out of the country. Every single time I see those ads, or I know it's getting less, but I just have to question, like, why do we have to be liked by men, or do we have to choose certain things based on men's perspective or whatever? It's just not right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really interesting. So it's very very sort of male gazy, and very sort of about pleasing men and being what men want. And
yeah. And I think Mitsu, right, and Tanaka, she also mentioned about women being like the sexual object or something like that, right? It's like women are like the object of as a sex, or women should be getting married with someone and have kids. Those are like it's her generation. And I still remember when I was little, I'm gonna say like I was elementary kids, I would be walking, and again, hopefully they don't do that anymore. Long time ago, I still remember back until like maybe I was 20, they will hand like a free tissue, like a pocket-sized tissue. It's like it's like they use it as an advertisement. And then before you open, so you kind of like open, right? There's this ads, it's like naked woman, like 1 hour for like $30. I still remember like those times that I would get it, and like I'm little kids, they just hand it to you, like, because it's their job to hand tissue, you know, that's their job, so they don't care how old I was or whatnot. But like seeing those things and walking, and there's like when you get into the train, and like there's a really fat big magazines, or it's like a manga, and then like a man right next to me is like reading those like really inappropriate books or the manga. And it's just like, it's weird now. I say this is weird, but it was like a normal thing for me as I was growing up. So like I think that itself will tell you a lot, I bet.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. So it's being surrounded by this very, very heavily sexualized imagery all the time, from a really young age.
Yeah. And then I still remember one of my best friends from college. Back then we used to have this thing called, well, now we have iPhone, but it's like an electric dictionary. So like I could type it in, and then it gives you the meaning, right? So then my friend, she wanted to buy one. She would work for those like a woman's like bar, and you sit down with a man and pour drinks, and I don't know what else would happen, who knows what. You get paid for it, and that's like the easiest money that they can get. I've never done that, but my friend did. Like, oh, I just bought this dictionary. Like, oh wow, you just told me that you didn't have money. Like, how did you get it? And she's like, well, and she told me, like, oh my gosh, that's crazy that you did that. But like for her, that was the only way to be able to get the quick money. But I think as Japanese women, like that is always like the thing. So like, for example, I'm kind of like worried to say this, but people who can't get a job, right? Women didn't get enough education or whatnot. Many people, the jobs are not really high paid job. It's like really crappy, like administrative jobs or whatnot. But women, they would then work into those bars. And I think, I'm scared to say this, but I'm just going to say it. I think there are also a lot of like a human trafficking issue. I watched the documentary about it too. So like if I start talking about it, it's just a whole another episode. But basically like a woman just working for men. Those are still an option. So I remember when I was maybe in like 18, 19, 20 and then walking in the city and like a Shibuya and all that, there's always like a jiggle, like a man hunting for women. So they'll like walk up to you and say, hey, they talk and like, what do you do right now? Like, are you interested in like making a lot of money? It's just like, those are like a common, like a very normal thing that happened back then. I'm not saying it's still happening now, but that was the thing. But back then it was just like everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
It is.
Yeah. I was just Googling there and it says sex work is criminalized in Japan, but there is certain types like massage parlors and things like that are legal.
Yeah. So there's a daycare, nighttime daycare pretty much is out there. Kids are staying at the nighttime daycare, so because the moms are working during the nighttime.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're quite a pro sex work podcast, so I mean, I think that's brilliant because, for example, in Ireland, sex work isn't legal, so there aren't facilities like that, like the daycares for nighttime for women that are doing this work. But I think what's different compared to other places where sex work is legal is the kind of blatancy, the like in your faceness of the sexualization of women, the media and the like that looking at the manga on the train is normalized and you can't escape it. It is, like you said, on the tissues from the children and it kind of comes up everywhere. Am I right in that?
Yeah. It's just a part of it. It's like there isn't a question for women. Like it's one of the options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You talked earlier about this thing where when you're young, you're supposed to be part of a group and be very humble. How does that relate to, you talk about playing small on your podcast? Do you think that had an impact?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the playing small part. So one of the biggest issue for me personally, though, I had a big, like a confidence issue. And to me, confidence is everything. One of the things was like, I never believed in myself. And then I think the reason why I never really believed in myself is as a girl who were growing up in Japan, I didn't really see a lot of like a woman as a role model who is doing the things that I want to do. So it was kind of difficult for me to even believe that it's possible for me. Of course, me personally, like I struggle with my appearance because Japanese magazines, they really talk a lot about women with a European face look are prettier than the Asian looking face. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so women with the bigger eyes and like a double eyelids versus like the almond shaped eyes, which is like the facial, the appearance that I have. There are a lot of magazines, they show how to do a makeup on these things. So like there are a lot of like surgery or like a plastic surgery place where you can change your eye shape to like a bigger double eyelid face.
Oh my goodness.
And to be honest, I also consider doing that too. Like now I'm like talking about it, it's like so teary. I get teary because how dare myself, like how dare me I even thought about that. It's so sad, right? It's like, why do I have to go under to be liked by who? It's just so sad, but I struggled a lot. So I used to use this thing called like it's like an eye glue to really, like, I know Jess, you can see me, right? Like I would put a glue here to make my like eyes like bigger, and then like it's just like a look like I have an eyelid, and it's like a normal thing in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So now,
that's horrendous.
It is so sad. So now I, go to Japan, and then I see my my family, just all like the family, we all look like this, right? So this little girl, she's just going through exactly the same thing that I went through. And that really hurt me. It's like, oh my gosh, like I feel bad that she thinks that she has to do it. But I feel like no one told her, no one told me to do it, but it was my decision because I thought that my face wasn't acceptable. I thought that if I don't have that look, I'm not going to get a boyfriend. So it was really, really difficult. So I struggle a lot with my self-confidence. That really kind of like gave me that idea of like, well, I'm not good enough, right? So like I was just playing small on that. Or like I learned to settle with what I already have. Don't ask for more. This is what it is. Just live with that. So I never really, like, for example, like I never really negotiated anything, because negotiation is just like a not very many people do. Like I never learned how to negotiate until I worked in a US corporate, and even just like my boss told me, like, you gotta negotiate. No one's gonna put the best interest to you. You're gonna have to fight yourself. Like, whoa, no one told me that. So like all those things.
Oh my god, horrendous. And on the beauty standards, that's something that I really liked messaging you during the week, Emmy. Emmy sent me an ad, and it's just a girl with a tennis racket and a tennis outfit, and I was like, she said, can you guess what this ad is for? And I was like, oh, it's obviously tennis lessons or tennis clothes or something. And it said girl power on the ad as well, so I was like, yeah, sports, like girl power. And it was an ad for laser hair removal, Jess.
Oh, I can see the ad. Wow. Yeah, that's not where my brain would have gone with that either.
Right.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, but like, so this was like ads inside of the train, and this was let's see, maybe 4 years ago. Like last time I went back to Japan, so like 4 years ago. Inside of the train, there's an ads, and I was just like standing, and the girls power like caught my eyes. Like, oh, girls power, like that's good, because like me being feminist, I was like, okay, girls power, that's amazing. Like, what does it say? And it was shocking. Like, I have to take a picture. Like, oh my gosh. So this is giving a wrong information or a wrong idea about girls power. Like, this has nothing to do with girls power. It's just shocking. There are so many ads still that is just not acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our culture, the ads are like not so blatant, like it'll just be like this beautiful, very beautiful woman, and it'll just say next to it like laser hair removal or something, and they're tricking your brain into making the connection between empowered, desirable, liked and laser hair removal. But it feels like in that ad, they're just saying it. They're just saying, if you want to be powerful, you have to get rid of your body hair, And it's like, it's so strange to me, Yeah.
And obviously, like, there was someone who's making approval, right? Yes, this ad is right. Like, I'm assuming it was a man.
Seems pretty likely.
Yeah, if it's a woman, because I remember, I think it was here in the US, PNG, I think. So then someone comes up with a tagline, and then PNG, they do really great with like inclusion and diversity and all aspect of like gender. One of the persons said, just always replace the word she to he. And if it sounds funny, never use that tag, like never use that line.
That's such a good test. Like, would this sound ridiculous if we were saying it about a man, and if it would, don't say it about a woman either, right? Oh, right. I love that. I wish all advertisers would use that test.
Yeah, I so in my Instagram, I actually did a lot of those in the Japanese one. Like, I found something that sounds really funny, and then I just like switch it. It's just like, it's funny.
One of my favorite Facebook pages is called Man Who Has It All. And it's exactly that.
I was just thinking about that.
It's advertising things, but they make it about men. So they'll have like scientist and male scientist, you know, or like, you know, men, how do you manage to lose weight and still have energy? Tell us now. And it's like, you just quickly realize how ridiculous a lot of these things are, you know?
Yeah, as a mom, as a working mom, I actually get that question a lot. Like, oh, so who's watching your kids? Like, oh, don't you have to go back? Do you ask the same question to men? If you don't, then please don't ask me.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's sad because it's coming from like another, like a female colleague, you know? So like
Yes.
I softly like educate them, like, because you ask these questions, and it's really not helping.
Absolutely.
Yes, completely. And I think that is another part of the, like, the internalized misogyny. So like the internalized how we as women can feel sexist towards other women basically is quite shocking. Like you mentioned there, you're a mom, and what are some, I don't know, like neither Jess or I are moms, but so this is definitely something we'd love to hear more about, is how are ways that you try and raise feminist children?
Definitely, I try not to like put my personal value at them. Yes, it is important, but at the same time, like, you know, I'm coming from that generation. Like, I have to be very careful when I say things like, oh no, you shouldn't do that. But then of course kids ask me the reason why. And if I don't have a good reason, you know what, you're right, no, you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't say like I said it just because I said so. If kids ask me something and they ask me a good question, they always like to ask the why. And if I'm just saying just because of the stories that I have been dragging, then like, you know what? Thank you for making me realize. So like, I'm always being like really open mind. And obviously I don't say things like, oh, you should do this because you're a girl, or I always look for, I'm always be careful with the, like a t-shirt. And if it says like, I look like a princess, or something with a princess, girls are always going to be a princess or something like that. Like, I don't buy them. I'm really, really careful with like the messaging that they have on their t-shirt. It's like, it's so sad. I was thinking like, I just went through some of the clothes, was like, why? No. It's just so funny. And also like be aware, or like one time my daughter, the older one, she's 11, and then one time she said, am I pretty? And I think as a parent, you want to say like, of course, sweetie, you're pretty, or something like that, right? But I don't say that. I say, you know what? Can you ask me the reason why you asked me? And also, can you please define the meaning? Like, what is your meaning of your pretty? Because pretty can be so many different ways. And my definition of pretty and your definition of pretty and someone else's definition of pretty is, we are all different. So tell me why you're asking me that. Like, I don't just say like, oh, you're pretty, you're cute, you're that. Like, I do not say those things. So like, always like I challenge them to think about things.
I love what you said about the clothes and things, like just those really subtle ways that gender roles are pushed on children by our cultures so early on. And I love that you're like making a conscious effort to resist that. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And also just like be aware of the differences. Like here in the United States, you know, we're all different, coming from a different culture background. And then the neighbor who are living right next to us, they're the lesbian couple, right? But I just like, I don't make it as a hash, or I don't make it like a big deal. I just always, it's a great opportunity to really get to know them and really understand like love is love. There's no need to just love one different gender. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like those things, like I'm just really open for it, and just like have a regular conversation. As a human beings, we all have a right to love anyone. It doesn't have to be because you're a girl, you have to like boys, or if your best friend likes another girl, we're just human beings with a really lovely heart. It's just like those little things. I make it a really, really important thing as a great lesson for them. I don't know if that helps.
That is so good. I love that so much. Like, I mean, I'm not having children, but if I was, I'd be like taking parenting lessons from you.
Thank you. But I think it's important, like, yes, it's important for girls to learn those things, but I think it has to from the mom too. You know, it's us. We need to understand. We need to be aware. We need, because there's so many things. It's already like subconsciously, like it's living there, right? So like one time there's a thing when my daughter got like let's say she got 45 out of 50, right? And then my mom used to tell me like, oh, so what happened for that 5, you know, the 5 things that you missed? That was how my mom raised me, not in a bad intention or anything. It's just the way how it was. So one time my daughter got like, let's say 45 or 47, and then, you know, she missed 3. I immediately said, oh, what happened to those 3? And as soon as I said that, I'm like, did my mom just say something? And then my husband right next to me, he's like, great job, Haley. I was like, I can't believe I just said that. It's here still. So like I'm still constantly working on it, and just to be really careful with certain things that I say. And it's not that easy. I get it, but it's just like a little effort would help.
Yeah, and I think that's the best we can do is to be mindful, you know, and admit it when we've made mistakes, because we all have those slip-ups and those moments where it's like, did I just say that? I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
Tell us about your podcast, Her Confidence, Her Way.
Yeah. So the podcast, it's funny. I had a long commute, and for some reason I found this thing called podcast, like back in maybe 5 years ago. And then I was listening to this podcast. It's called Working Motherhood. And all those women are talking about, you know, doing the passion, like the things that they're passionate about, the things that they love, and they're becoming entrepreneurs. And I have entrepreneur, that was a new word for me. So enter what? So and then obviously I'm driving, so I can't look up the words. So as soon as I got home and I looked up the term, and I don't even know how to spell it, but it's like I kind of trying to sound it out and look it up, and I'm like, oh, okay. So there's a thing called, like, there's another different world in the online business world. So this is when I like discover online business world. And then I was thinking, okay, well, those women's stories, they're great. It's really empowering and all that. But there's this thing that is missing, which is me as an Asian woman, Japanese woman living in the United States. I have a lot of cultural issue. I have the language barriers and all that stuff. So yes, I can relate to you, but not 100%. So, okay, well, that means maybe I can find something that, you know, someone who's like me speaking about this podcast or doing a podcast. I searched, I couldn't find it. And for whatever the reason, I heard my voice saying I should start a podcast. So that's how I started.
So exciting.
And then the name Her Confidence, Her Way, I originally started with a different podcast name, but again, I kind of mentioned to you earlier, confidence was the biggest issue for me. I thought that the problem that I can't perform well, the problem that I was playing small is because of my English as a second language. So I used to just always blame on like, oh, if I can speak this perfect English, oh, if I were the native speakers, I could do this. Or if I don't have accent, then maybe I can do that. And then I realized, like, really, is that the reason? And then I finally realized, like, no, that's not the reason why. It was all about my self-confidence and the belief. I had zero belief in me. So that's when I started my, like, a personal development journey. Yeah.
Oh, yes, please. We need more outrageous accents.
Yeah. And, you know, I learned to show where I am from. I don't have to speak this perfect English. There's no such a thing as a perfect English. So.
Yeah, because sometimes lots of places now are saying they want diversity, but there can still be that pressure to conform again, you know, and not be the nail that sticks out in any way, you know. And so on your website, you specifically say side hustle coach. Can you tell me about like side hustle coach? What does that mean?
Yeah, side hustle is pretty much like you have a job, right? You have a main job. that could be either way. It could be soul sucking, or it could be something that is already fulfilling, either way, right? But then there's something that you want to do on the side that is really like a passion driven work. So that is side hustle. So it's like you're hustling outside of the work hour because you can't really work on your side hustle during your office. So it could be on the weekends and all that stuff. But I know you kind of like asked me about, what is the difference between the side hustle culture and then not burnout. And I think it's important to really understand the season. So if you are building your business, the beginning, there's a lot of hustle in there, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be forever. I always like to look at it as a season. So like if you're doing something for like launch, then, you're going to be a little bit busier. You just have to be okay with the house being messy, right? But then like once you are done with your launch or whatnot, then take some time. Like for example, I had a launch in May. And then here in the US, we had a Memorial day, so it was a Memorial weekend this past weekend, and I just like took time off. I just didn't do anything, and I told my clients like, hey, I'm not responding any emails because I still need to work on my boundaries. I'm an Enneagram type 9. So I really need to work on my boundaries. So but basically I like to look at a season so that you're not burning out, because otherwise you're just constantly working and going for this next thing, and it's not healthy. I think so many people start as a side hustle because they want to do the passion driven work, but they also forget about their self-care, and then you turn like your passion business turn into their like a monster business, and then so many people struggle as well.
Yeah, Jess, you've written an article about hustle culture, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you want to comment on that?
I have. Well, it's actually on a blog that I started for like 5 minutes and then realized that I didn't really have the time to keep up with and wasn't really doing anything for me. So I might try and republish it somewhere else at some point, because I actually thought it was a really good article. I think very much echoing what you just said, Emmy, about the kind of, you can work really, really hard sometimes, but you can't do that constantly. And I feel as though, like, at least in the UK and probably in the US and probably in lots of places, it's very much pushed that like this is the way to be, is just to hustle all the time. And I think it's not sustainable and it's not realistic. And so it sounds like you're approaching it from in a very kind of balanced and self-care driven way, which I really love.
Yeah,
we need more of that.
Priorities,
Yeah.
My family is always going to be priority, but at the same time, like let's say if I'm a mom of 2 little kids, so my husband has to step in and help me out.
Yeah.
So like as a woman, as a mom, I have to be okay with letting go of things. I think many women, they still have that issue, like, oh no, that's not the way how you change your diaper. Like you're not allowing the other person to do their own way. So that's a whole different like a problem. But I want to say like a hustle, it's like social media makes it even worse sometimes. Like, it's all those things like, I don't know. It looks like as if it's like the business is so easy, or it could be like you gotta do the hard work and blah, blah, blah. And like, what does that mean? It's so many information is out there. So you kind of have to find your own piece.
Yeah, I'm thinking again about that thing you said about that there has to be this conformity. And sometimes we're given the message that conformity is to be busy all the time. And actually to take a break and say, no, in my life, this is the way the seasons look, is like really like, I can hear your journey there from, going towards yourself and what's right for you. And I can really hear how you can help other people with that as a result. Beautiful. So thanks so much, Emmy. And before we finish up, Jess has quick-fire questions for you. Yes. So these are questions we're going to ask every guest.
This is a thing that I shamelessly stole from like a bunch of podcasts that I like. It's a thing that a lot of podcasters do, and it's basically just a lightning round. So I'm just going to ask a few like quick fire questions and just kind of give us the first answer that comes to mind. Don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, I'm ready.
What does feminism mean to you?
Yes, I love this question. So basically, I just want to keep it simple. It's really, for me, it's like standing up and speaking up for women's rights. But I also want to mention that simply we're asking to be treated equally. We're not asking to be treated something special. And we're not an angry, crazy woman. We're not a men hater. Feminism isn't about just like fighting, always just fighting in an aggressive way or anything like that. So I just wanted to like put it out there too.
Oh, yes. Amen to all of that. So good.
Yeah.
So question 2, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever got?
So many things that I have, but I have to always go with what my mom said. She said, focus on your progress, not the result, because the result will follow based on the process that you are in. So I was like, yep, I love it.
That is excellent. Who's a woman that you really admire and why?
Yeah, so because I said that earlier with that advice coming from my mom, and definitely my mom, she was a role model, and I feel like she doesn't know it, but I think she has that feminism in her. She was a working mom, but at the same time, like she's enjoying with her friends, and like she just showed me everything. Anything she did, she never said that I have to do it this way, but you know, it's basically I saw her and I grew up by looking at everything like what she did, and now it's helping me a lot. So definitely my mom is a role model.
I love that answer. So what's the best book you've read this year?
This year, so right now I am reading this thing called The Science of Getting Rich. Have you ever heard of it? It's basically,
no, I haven't.
It's like an easy version of Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
It's a really thin book, but it's like an easier version. So like if you read that one and then move on to Think and Grow Rich, it will help a lot.
Cool. Okay, so imagine that we're having this interview in a coffee shop rather than over Zoom. What are you ordering from the coffee shop?
So I don't drink coffee, so I definitely would be ordering like a mango and passion tea or something. And if they have boba, do you guys know what boba is?
Oh my gosh, yes, I love it.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure. It's like, do you call it tapioca? I don't know. If they have that, I will definitely ask to add boba in that tea.
Okay. Well, there is a really good boba place in the city where I live. So if you ever visit the UK, we will go and get some.
I definitely have to go check it out. Yeah.
And I need to have boba for the first time because I've never had it.
No.
Oh, it's great. You definitely should. So next question, do you have any pets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have 3 dogs. I have like miniature pincher, and then I also have, can you see? It's like a mud. Her name is Xena, and then I also have Silver. She is a little puppy. I don't know.
Oh, so cute.
So I have those for the Instagram as well.
Amazing. So listeners, we will pay the pet tax and put the pics on Instagram. Yes. So at the end of every episode, we do our gratitude corner. So what is one thing that you're grateful for right now?
I'm not saying this because I am being interviewed by you, but it's just this opportunity because I was able to find out this amazing documentary movie. It was Mitsu Tanaka was in there, and I know I shared with Grace, but if you didn't reach out to me, I would never really looked more or learned more about the Japanese feminism. So like, thank you for that opportunity. I just can't thank enough.
Oh, I love that answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the last question of the rapid fire round is what is one piece of feminist media, so either a book or a podcast or a TV show or anything like that you think that everyone should watch or read or listen to?
Yeah, so earlier I told you like the Debu movement, right? I searched and I went to YouTube and I really couldn't find anything, but there's one thing that I found. It is a documentary movie. It was about the all the feminist, Japanese feminists. And it is called Nani o Osoreru. So there's an English version that I sent to Grace, so maybe you can look it up. But it is something that like I'm definitely speaking to like Japanese women, but all Japanese women should definitely watch this documentary. I want to watch, I just don't have access, so I'm only kind of like reading the like a little preview and stuff, but definitely like I really want to watch this.
Amazing. Yes. Well, I will get Grace to send me the link and I will check it out, and we will link to it in the show notes as well so that listeners can find it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they can learn more about Japanese like history of it.
They were such good answers. You've set the bar really high for all our future guests now. Well done.
Emmy, do you want to tell our lovely listeners where they can find you on social media?
Yes. Like I said earlier, I'm a podcaster, and my podcast is called Her Confidence, Her Way. And majority, I speak, I don't know, it's really depend. I mix the language a lot. So I actually do have a lot of listeners who are non-Japanese, but they're learning Japanese. They like that combination. So if you're learning Japanese, definitely listen to that podcast. Not only you learn about Japanese, but you are also going to be definitely inspired and be motivated by it too. And of course, Instagram at Emiko Rasmussen, EmikoRasmussen.
Thank you for being our first guest.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, this was so much fun.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, our sign off is usually we say, until next time, remember to something and love women. So do you want to say what people should do as well as love women?
Wait, so what was it again? Until
next time, blank and love women.
Blank and love women. Oh, is the word empower taken away?
Yeah.
No, I love it. Perfect.
Empower women.
Until next time, stay empowered and love women.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that was Emiko. Emmy, she's great. Just to do a shout out as well, I found her on a group called She Podcasts. And yeah, it's just when I was doing research for the Mitsu Tanaka episode, I was like, ooh, I wonder if there's any Japanese podcasts I could listen to. And yeah, so I found Emmy through that group.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I want to hear your voice more. So, yeah. Yeah. How do you think our first interview went, Jess? Was it all right?
I really enjoyed that. That was so much fun. Like, I've said this before, but you know, I'm a journalist in my day-to-day life, and one of the things that I love the most about journalism is just that I get to talk to really cool people. So podcasting is much the same, and just getting to talk to awesome women and hearing about the cool things that they do and everything. It's great. But listeners, let us know what you think. Let us know if you enjoyed it. If you want to be on our show, or if you know other cool people who should be on our show, then tell us. But yeah, just generally let us know what you think of the format, if you liked it, if you think it worked.
Absolutely, and let us know if you have suggestions for our quickfire round. Let us know if there's women from other backgrounds or anything you'd like us to interview, and we'll certainly do our best.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the quickfire round questions will probably change periodically as I come up with new ones, but I think the request for pet pics will always stay in there.
Priorities.
So if you have a super cute pet and want to be on our show, then let us know. So yeah, are we doing gratitude corner this week before we sign off?
That was something I meant to say to you. I love how you changed the name of our gratitude corner. Like, we do a basic bitch gratitude list. I'm like, we don't do a gratitude corner.
That is true. We do a corrections corner and a basic bitch gratitude list. Yes, that is correct.
I am grateful for I got a new bike. And I actually went cycling.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that. I am meditating every night, and god damn it, it's actually making a difference. And my energy is better. I'm grateful for modern technology that makes it so I can like listen to music all the time.
That's fair. It's a good one.
Cool. You go.
I just booked to go for a meal in a restaurant for the first time in well over a year, which is really exciting because my 31st birthday is coming up and I haven't really properly celebrated my 30th yet. So going out for a meal with the family, which is going to be lovely. Yeah, and I mean, I guess I said it a few minutes ago. I'm grateful that my job lets me talk to awesome people. I feel very lucky that I get to do something that I love. One from this week. We had a slight cat emergency last week. We were very worried about one of our kitties. He was not very well. Thankfully, he's fine now. So all is good. But I am grateful for our amazing vets because they were brilliant.
Oh, get well soon, catty. Does your cat have a cone of shame on?
Thankfully not. He did not have to have anything major done. Just had to have some blood tests and things. So no cone of shame, luckily, because I think he would probably like kill me in my sleep if we had to do that to him.
And as Emmy said herself, until next time, stay empowered and love women.
Always.
Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap. I'm so hungry.